Isolated by Mexico's deadly copper canyons, the blissful Tarahumara Indians have honed the ability to run hundreds of miles without rest or injury. In a riveting narrative, award-winning journalist and often injured runner Christopher McDougall sets out to discover their secrets. In the process, he takes his readers from science labs at Harvard to the sun-baked valleys and freezing peaks across North America, where ever-growing numbers of ultra runners are pushing their bodies to the limit. And finally, to a climactic race in the Copper Canyons that pits America's best ultra runners against the tribe. McDougall's incredible story will not only engage your mind, but inspire your body when you realize that you, indeed all of us, were born to run. Born to Run is a story about a hidden tribe, super athletes, and the greatest race the world has never seen. It is one of the foundational books of the modern running movement and has spurred ultra-marathoning participation since it's been published. I first heard about the book almost 8 years ago before my freshman year of high school. My family and I were on vacation in Texas. We ran into an Indiana cross-country coach who espoused the teachings of Born to Run, notably how your feet are like giant shock absorbers with a lot of small bones, tendons, and ligaments to pad your foot as it impacts the ground. Indeed, this book is one of the main reasons for the emergence of the barefoot running practice. One of the people in the book is nicknamed Barefoot Ted, and he runs almost exclusively barefoot or with a very small sole attached to his foot. The tribe, the Tarahumara, also run with very thin soles that are strapped to their feet. The reason for this has to do with how your body absorbs the shock of running. Most notably, in today's modern running shoes, they are thickly padded with foam, which encourages runners to use their heels to land on, called heel striking. This, through several research reports listed in the book, is shown to increase the rate of injury. There are many lessons like these within the book Born to Run, so let's get into the review itself. Beginning this book, it almost feels like a work of fiction. The idea that there's this mythical tribe in a far-off land that has almost magical superpowers in their ability to run is almost to the point of a tall tale, like Paul Bunyan. Another reason why it might not be totally believable is that ultramarathoning as a concept is kind of bonkers. The book goes into detail about how runners experience hallucinations whilst running, as extreme fatigue takes a toll on their body. Even to me, who has been consistently running for 8 years as a cross-country runner, the idea of running 100 miles a week, let alone in a day, is kind of bonkers to me. I mean, you're obviously going to travel a lot slower, but you're traveling farther and running for much longer periods of time. Overall, the structure of the book is very entertaining. The narrative is mainly constructed of how the author, Christopher McDougall, meets a friend in Mexico and how they set up an ultramarathoning race with the native tribe. The race is comprised of notable ultramarathoners from America as well as the tribe. This main storyline is interjected several times with histories of ultramarathoning, as well as the personal stories of runners participating. Of note, many chapters are dedicated to research done into ultramarathoning and the history of running in humans. These sub-narratives are very entertaining and informative. Perhaps the most entertaining of these is the story of Ann Trayson, a female ultramarathoner from San Francisco who won Leadville and raced the Tarahumara in American soil in Colorado. She nearly won and was nicknamed Bruja, or Witch. Another important side story is that of co-founder of Nike, Bill Bowerman, who invented the modern running shoe and along with it many modern running injuries. Rather notably, while he was a cross-country coach at Oregon, he wasn't much of a runner himself and only discovered it in his middle-aged years. Aside from the narratives, the book also is very informative. It teaches lots of key lessons, including how running form matters, how running shoes matter, how nutrition and running strategy can impact your races. It also talks about how running mentality can matter a lot, and shares conclusive research into the subjects of physiology, human history, anthropology, and how humans evolved and why they evolved the way they did. This book is almost so informational it's overwhelming, but the storylines break it up in an entertaining way and keep the reader engaged. Overall, I recommend this book to anyone who's running. In fact, if you're even not a runner but want to get into it, this is a great book for you. I would also encourage you to do an audiobook if you would prefer that. This book has changed the way I see nutrition and how I run, what shoes I'm choosing to run in the future, and got me on the hook to run an ultra marathon at some point in my near future. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into some of the nitty-gritty details. And as a reminder, if you are enjoying this video, please sure to subscribe, leave a comment down below, like the video. It really helps the channel grow and the video to do well. So our first lesson comes from Eric, our author, Christopher McDougall's running coach. He explains that running is very similar to other sports. There are fundamental lessons that must be learned, and that most people just run the way they run, and that's kind of ridiculous. Do people just swim the way they swim? Every sport lessons are necessary to learn and to grow, and running is the same way. He says, learn it wrong and you'll never know how good it can feel. This is going to be pretty important because running form does matter. If you are running incorrectly, it can lead to a lot of stress injuries. Christopher McDougall experiences this firsthand, as do many runners. So what is the right way to run? Well, running on your forefoot is what you want to be doing. Eliminating heel striking and shock going through your ankle to your knee to your hip to your lower back. You want to be absorbing that shock using the natural flexing of your foot. Having a good shoe helps. Shoes play a key role in this. So here's one of the painful truths of this book. The best shoes are the worst. Wearing the top of the line shoes means you're 123% more likely to get injured than runners in cheap shoes. If you look at Nike, their free run shoe is $80 right now, and their top of the line running shoes that are advertised are over $200. And that's kind of crazy because those shoes I have pretty thick soles to them and are heavily cushioned. Indeed, more cushioning or pronation correction can increase the likelihood of stress injuries. And the second painful truth is that feet like a good beating. My cross-country program and many cross-country programs include barefoot running as an exercise to do after easy day runs. We did strides on a football field. This helps the supportive, smaller muscles around your foot, lower calf, and ankle to develop their strength and stability. It can prevent rolling your ankle and other stress injuries. The final painful truth is this. Even Alan Webb says human beings are designed to run without shoes. Where are shoes invented? Prior to humans running and evolving to run. Another key lesson taught in this book is about nutrition. The Tarahumara eat a lot of pennel, which is a wild corn cousin, as well as beans and rice and chia seeds. All of these sources of food are high in protein and high in a lot of nutrients that you need for your body to recover. Most of them actually don't eat meat. Scott Urich, who is the best ultramarathoner in America during the time of this book, who participates in the race, is vegetarian, and you can get all the protein you need to recover from plant-based sources. One of the notable sources for information in this book comes from Dr. Ruth Heydrich. She did research about the standard American diet and research about non-cancerous cultures and determined that she needed to make the transition and eat more like the Tarahumara. Indeed, she was especially susceptible to cancers and had a medical gun at her head. She made the transition and she had a simple rule. If it came from plants, she ate it. And if it came from animals, she didn't. Animal-based sources of protein increasing the chances of cancer long term. Personally, I have been eating less and less meat since being in a relationship with a pescatarian. I still eat a fair amount of chicken on a regular basis, but not a lot of red meat, not a lot of lunch meat, like processed meats. I try and stay away or limit that, keep it as a nice treat every once in a while, but eat more and more vegetables and whole grains. I find this to be very helpful, and indeed, protein, animal protein, takes a lot longer to digest and can upset your stomach if you are trying to run for a long duration of time. This book concludes that a plant-based diet is very good for ultramarathoning and running in general because you can have more flexibility in your schedule. These things digest more quickly, and so you can go for a run more often or more suddenly depending on what you've eaten. And finally, this book tells the story a little bit of human evolution and how some scientists believe that running and persistence running to hunt food caused humans to evolve and gave them an advantage against stronger, heavier Neanderthals way back when, and compared and contrast these evolutionary features on the human body to other runners and sprinters in the animal kingdom, and concluded that humans are one of the best adapted animals for running long distances. Our ability to sweat and our ability to breathe independently from our locomotion, unlike quadrupedal animals, gives us an extreme advantage in this regard. Ultimately, ultramarathoners are always going to be a little bit crazy, but the reason why they do what they do can be found slightly in this book. Obviously, everyone's going to be a little bit different, but it's the principle of love. Ultramarathoners love running, they love the outdoors, they love being in nature, they love the community of runners, and in this book, they especially love the Tarahumara tribe, who, while are rather secluded, are some of the coolest, kindest people in the world. And the love of challenging oneself every day, improve slightly, to run a little bit farther. That's why I personally love running, and that's why I would recommend to anybody to read this book. That being said, thank you all so much for watching, and remember to always run with joy.